Hello guys, welcome to my channel, Hustle Guy here, and I would like to show you a game from a classical tournament I'm playing in right now. This is the game that I am particularly proud of and hope to share, admittedly one of my best attacks in the lifetime with you. Let's get started. I've played with White, my opponent, a very skilled young player with a lot of tournament experience, probably even more than me, known to dominate tournaments. He's still dominating the tournament we are currently playing, and he played c5, Sicilian Defense, with very aggressive setups. Knight c3, knight c6, f4. This is my favorite variation in Sicilian Defense, the Grand Prix Attack, and I like it because first it goes off the Fury. It is not a really practically shown game, and problem is it carries a lot of overlooked attacks and punishes players that are not really into the Fury and don't know how to defend against some very good attacks. G6. My opponent is trying to set up like a dragon variation, but we are not in open Sicilian, so this is not really same principles. First the bishop. This bishop is very nice because it covers and attacks the f7 square, which might turn out useful in the future. And d6 is the move I personally like fighting against. I do not like when I would not play this move if I was playing black. This is really impractical because when you have to, in the Grand Prix Attack, you have to counter attack. You cannot just sit and wait. And here the d6 is kind of a waiting move. And this is the move that will often lead to a lot of problems. I castle, a6. Now it might be good to prepare d5, but with a pawn on d7 you could play it instantly. With a pawn on d6 you have to waste another move. d3, knight to e7. This is a standard setup. I mean, it is very played, a lot of games in this, but also also very tricky one. Queen e1, a very sneaky move. We are preparing the big blow on the king side. Black castles, and now comes the first great move of those positions, though a very topical one. f5, a huge pawn break in the center. It might not seem huge, but it actually is huge. And only one of the, I mean, you can take it in two ways. You can take with the g pawn, with an e pawn, and only one of those is actually good. One is a lot better for black, and one almost instantly loses the game. Not in the traditional sense, but that's a big attack that you have to be very careful of. So, time for you. Which pawn do you take with? If you, as the majority of players in this position, played e takes, you're actually wrong. The correct move is g takes. And the problem is with the diagonal. This is the main, this happens to be the main theme of the attack. Just by removing the defending pawn. And my opponent played exactly the more intuitive e takes f5. Game is not already lost, but he'll have a lot of trouble. Queen h4, and this is the first move of the big attack. We are sacrificing another pawn, but it is untouchable. We can just play like here, threaten a mate, and after h6, sacrifice the knight here. While calculating this line, I assumed the d5, and after a brief calculations of some of the lines, I was pretty sure that this is probably winning. Would have to calculate it in depth, but my opponent played Queen C7, which I haven't seen in that position ever. This is first time I've seen it, and I do not like it. I feel like it was a bad move by my opponent. Seems very anti-positional. Look, we are attacking here, everything goes here, and he moves the queen to the queen side, disconnecting it from defense of the h7, f7. It doesn't make sense in my opinion. And now I continue with the attack. Bishop, and here you'll see a very topical, a very practically shown attack in the Grand Prix if the opponent doesn't play very carefully. Bishop e6, without any calculation it might feel like it's a very good defensive move, but unfortunately, or fortunately for me, it fails under precise play. Can you see the moves? The variation I went for: stakes, takes, and knight g5. The more correct one would probably be to take and threaten the rook and then attack. But I didn't even consider it, taking it into consideration that I already pre-planned knight g5 earlier. The problem is, first, this weak pawn. It is already targeted by the knight. You don't really have a lot of choices to defend this. And the problem is that if you don't, then this is a fork. So the move that was played, and the move that shows how queen c7 was useless, is queen c8. Defending the pawn, but still disconnecting the rooks. And I already knew that something is gonna happen. I was pretty sure. I was almost preparing the big attack, but I wasn't not really sure, so I've played g4, which is a mistake considering how the game ended and how the moves were played. It was probably a bit too slow. But here my opponent, I feel like he didn't think I can mate him here. He thought like I'm just doing a silly little attack and nothing can happen. Because, well, he played knight to d4, threatening a fork here. Like taking this pawn or giving a check here. I mean, this knight is offensive, but it doesn't work. And can you find the winning attack that makes the black surrender? First, you can see that the queen might be attacking the h7 square. But the problem is with the bishop. So the way we solve this is by trading the bishops, giving a check. We force the king here. And here goes the calculations. I've had a lot of variations prepared, and I was not really sure which to choose from. I haven't chosen the most optimal one, but I know I've chosen the one that worked, and almost all of those that I thought about, particularly h4, which I really liked, and e5, which I only barely considered, both were good, but I've decided to go with e takes, with the idea of the fact that any of those pawn takes and we give a check, and this position has to be lost. Or maybe, yeah, this check is better, because here, and we now have this attack. Yes, this place is guarded, so you cannot take with this. With this one, it is a bit harder because the line is open, but it is also not a really ideal way to defend. And my opponent, with full cockiness, took the knight. Here I decided to, I mean, this was probably the more optimal. Here, and the move h3 that I considered at some point. But I mean, I missed this mate in 2 and decided to go with this. And at that point I played knight to e4, threatening mate here. Obviously there were a lot of mates before, but I haven't took a lot of time to consider them all, just knew I am winning. Queen d8 as a defense option, and here a move that I would consider a brilliant. It doesn't sacrifice anything, but it is actually a beautiful finisher. Queen h7. Point is, any move blunders h3 except for queen h4, which fails here, and there are no moves like here. You can try something here like that. It still will fail one way or the other. Yeah, you cannot play here. If this, you give a check here. No, the check here even better. A lot of mates hanging. The opponent was not really cautious, but he took with the g-pawn, fully sure that he doesn't get mated. First I miss another mate in 1, as you do, but I found even more straightforward mate here, and at that point I gave a mate, we shook hands, and I've won with the leader of the tournament. So, to recap, offensive setup, very great offensive setup of Grand Prix, with, I would say, engine worthy, self-humbly, I know, exploitation of the wrong capture here, g4 that is not optimal, very not safe for the king, and here a lot of winning moves. And at that point you just have to choose one that works and that you can calculate until the end. So I've chosen, and quite a smooth win, only around 40 minutes. Great game. Tell me in the comments if you want more Grand Prix games, because I've got a lot of those and we could analyze them together. Until then, see you and have a great day.